Now, don't get me wrong, having a hobby is an important thing in your life. For me, I have a particularly expensive hobby. Okay. Probably all hobbies are expensive when you take them to the nth degree. But how do we factor in the budget? How do we make sure that we are getting those little joys, but also not being ridiculous with money? That's what we're going to find out today. Hi guys, gals and all buddies, welcome back to Budget with Ira. My name is Ira and on this channel we talk about budgeting, paying down debt and saving up for the life that you truly deserve. If that sounds like something you'd like to watch, please consider subscribing to the channel because we do have a lot of fun over here, bestie. Yes, we absolutely do. In today's video, we're going to be doing another one of my series called Budget Bestie. Budget Bestie is a series where people anonymously submit their budget to me. I take a look at them and see what I would do if I was in their situation. This is not financial advice. However, sometimes I can sort of give a nugget of what I might do and that might help them make informed decisions for themselves for their own budget. So in today's video, as I said, we have got someone who has a pretty expensive hobby, or at least they take it to a place where it becomes expensive. So we need to get into that. I'm going to read out a couple bits first from the form builder and then we'll get into what their budget looks like and then I will make my sort of changes of what I would do. So starting off, their main financial goal is to get out of debt, build an emergency fund and stay in check with their spending because they seem to have a spending issue. Now, what is the spending issue? They say they have no self-control. They are addicted to Pokemon cards and blind boxes. And I don't know, how much does a Pokemon blind box cost? Let's have a look. Okay, about 40 quid. Okay, so not a cheap hobby, right? I can relate though. So they do have an interesting income as well, which we'll talk about. They do have a little bit of debt, which we'll talk about as well. They're currently saving for their emergency fund. They really want to go to Korea as well. And they want a new computer. So it's going to be an interesting one. In terms of family, it's just them. They have no annual costs and don't pay for stuff like phone as they use their work ones. We've got a really nice, tight, succinct budget. And I think what we can do is just highlight a couple bits and really show them what life could look like if they were a bit smarter with their money. So let's get into it. So normally we would be using one of these paycheck bill trackers, but I thought how cute for us to use a budget booklet. So these are available on my Etsy store. You can get them in all sorts of colorways and stuff like that. This is the current one. So this is the current collection. It's got 5 paycheck bill trackers in it and we're going to do one of these ones, and then after that it's got a check-in so you can check in every single week. It also goes into a tracker so you can track your expenses. You can do a meal plan, pick your shopping list, and that's the back of it there. And it comes with stickers as well so you can really lay down your expenses and stuff like that. We are going to move into which one do I like. I really like this one, so we're going to fold this over and we're going to do this one today. So let's get into it. So we're going to start off with income, and they have 2 sources of income. So the first source of income, let's get it up so I'll make sure I'm right. They have their wages, which is 2,304. So that's their normal amount. So we're literally just going to budget this. So 2,304. They also added that sometimes it can be an extra 500 to £1,000 for video editing, which they do for a big YouTuber. So that's cool. So we're going to budget the 2,304 because the 500 to 1,000 doesn't happen every month. But let's go into their expenses. So bills wise, they have their mortgage, which is good. So mortgage here is 450. Then they have council tax. So hopefully they have the little, I think it's 25% off when you live by yourself. That's 125. They might live up north, I'm not sure, but that seems pretty low. Spotify as well. I don't know how they got it that low, but that's £6. They have Amazon Prime, which is their fee. So Amazon Prime, that they pay £4.50 per month. Do you think they're still a student? Because they got really good deals and rates on this. They do water as well. So £100 for water. I'm assuming this is all of their energy because there is no electric bill or gas bill. So I assume that's all of their energy together. Then they have a YouTube here, but this is not YouTube Premium. This is a subscription, which is £5. Then they have Discord. So they seem like a young person. Discord, which is 10. And then they pay a lot for internet. So internet is 80. So either they haven't shopped around or they are in a spot where they have poor internet, or they are just paying for the top of the whack best thing. Sounds like they're probably getting the best internet they can based off of their sort of like, it looks like they have an online presence, right? So this comes up to £780.50, which leaves them, after we take it away from their income up here, of £1,523.50. So let's move over to their variables. I only listed one, which is food. So food, this might surprise you, is £800. So £800 a month seems like a lot to me. I get that if you're single, like getting lots of ingredients to just cook for one is really tough, but you're also able to cook larger meals that you can like spread about, if that makes sense. So £800 seems like a lot, but we'll look at that when we get to it. So their total for their envelopes, and I know we're missing stuff, they haven't mentioned it, is £800, which leaves them with £723.50. There are absolutely no sinking funds they lifted. They did say that they wanted to sort out an emergency fund and save for career, but we're not there yet. So we're gonna skip sinking funds and move straight down to minimums. So they have debt minimums, and they're only paying the minimums on their debt, which is £92, and that's all they're paying towards debt, which leaves them with £631.50. So this is what they say, right? So they have a buffer of what's left over of £631.50, and this is what they say. The rest goes on booster boxes and blind boxes, but I don't feel like it's anything or I have money to spend. I think honestly, buying an apartment was a horrible idea that I could have gotten rent cheaper. So their opinion is that £450 mortgage, honestly, when I was last living in proper rented, I was paying over £1,000 a month. So their mortgage, that's really good. That's really good. It looks like they're spending £631 on blind boxes. They're spending money and stuff like that. It looks like they're wasting a lot of money, unless we just don't have a full picture. But from what they gave us, this is what we have so far. So looks like they are just, for lack of a better expression, they are weeing £631 every month against the wall. I think having that much left over at the end of every month and only paying minimums on debt is wild. It is wild. But let's look at what I would do if I was in their situation. So typically I would not do anything with bills over here, just because they are what they are. I mean, obviously I'd like to cut down some of these things here, but like, in honestly, the prices are really, really low. I'd be interested to see if there actually is more energy in that, because £100 for just water seems okay, but like, where's the other things coming in? Does that make sense? This is what we've got. This is what we're working off of. So we are still at this stage here with this £1,523.50. We need to look at some envelopes. So what we've got here is spending money. So I don't know if they like need to do travel to work or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is spending money, which is £40 per week times 5. So in a 4-week month, we've got an extra 40 quid to do whatever we want with. Maybe a blind box. This is what I'm going to do, is £200 for that. I'm also going to cut their food down to 600 and see if we can make that work. That is £150 per week for a single person. I think that is more than reasonable. Maybe we're talking about a lot of takeaways or something within that. I think we need to pull our belt in significantly. So we still keep it at £800 there, which means we've still got £723.50. Now, we haven't spoke about travel to work or anything like that. So if that is that, £40 is more than enough to cover that. If it's not, we can re-look at some stuff, but that's sort of where I'd sort of be looking at for spending, right? Let's list these sinking funds. So what I want to work out is an emergency fund. I think it's the very important thing to do. So it looks like their priority is get rid of debt, then work on an emergency fund. But I feel like you can definitely work on the two at once. So we want to do an emergency fund here. Then they said that getting to career is really important to them. And then after that, they want to get a computer. So computer. So I had a quick look online, and career you can do for 4K very comfortably, and a relatively high spec computer is 2K. Without knowing anything more, that's what I've gone for. So, but obviously we'd readjust based off of if we found out any new information. Yeah. Then I think obviously they must have family or at least friends. Well, they do have friends because they're going to career with them. So let's talk about Christmas. Yeah, and let's talk about birthdays. So this is what I would do. I would start looking at emergency fund as a priority to start doing while paying down debt. Let's tell you how I worked it out. So we've got 780.50, which is their bills. Yeah, we can take some out of these, but you know, we'll be okay to just do that. And like, we're talking about an emergency as in I've lost my job. Yeah, so this is, you know, to help us find another job. Yeah, and then we need to add 400 because honestly the only other definite expense we need to have is food, and we can do £100 a week for food. We can do that if we are in a real dire situation. 780.50 plus 400 is 1180. Then when we times that by 6, that comes 7080. So what we're actually looking at is a 7k emergency fund. So when we get 7k and divide that by 12, that means we need to save 580 per month. But if we divide it by 24, which is 2 years, we're 291. So I believe 291 is the correct amount to save every month for 2 years, and then we will have a 7k emergency fund. That's what I would do. I would leave Korea for now, and I would leave computer for now until we get our priorities in line, because going to Korea can't be a priority when we haven't got an emergency fund. But that's just me. It might not be you, yeah? I would do £50 per week for Christmas, per month, sorry, for Christmas, which means by Christmas you have £600. And for birthdays, I'll do roughly 20, because depending on how big your family is, depending on how big your friend circle is, right? This comes up to 361. And when we take it away from that 72350, it leaves us with 362.50. So let's talk about debt. So the debt that they actually owe is £2,000, right? So if we divide that £2,000 by 6, as in we want to get rid of it in 6 months, we need to save 333.33 per month and putting that towards debt, which means in 6 months time it'll all be gone. So in order to do that, we need to add an overpayment of 241.33, which means that'll be 33333. When we take it from the 362, we're left with 29.17, which is more than enough. So things we need to talk about, right? With this plan, we will pay off our debt in 6 months because it is our number one priority. We'll have an emergency fund within 2 years, and then once that's all gone, it's absolutely fine. Now they did list that they have another debt, which is Klarna. They owe £350, which they are paying £175 for the next 2 months. So I would start this after Klarna's done, right? The other thing is that I have not factored in any blind boxes, any Pokemon cards whatsoever, because sometimes they earn an extra 500 to 1,000. So when they earn that 500 to 1,000, if they decide that they want to pay off a bit of extra debt, if they decide they want to chuck it towards Korea, they can do. But what they are more likely to do is to enjoy their hobbies. So this is considered, or what I would do is I consider this as side hustle money, and that pays for our frivolities and the things that we like, making sure that our paycheck is doing all the boring and important stuff. But this extra, when we do extra work for this YouTuber, we can then pay for our Pokemon cards and do our fun stuff with it, yeah? So if we don't do any work for that YouTuber, then we don't get any Pokemon cards. Our budget cannot afford it. Our budget can't sustain it. But if we want to, we can do that. And if you've got £1,000, like, you know, we can eke that out and get those little happies throughout the month. But let's now talk about what happens after our debt goes away. So when our debt is gone in 6 months' time, we are then left with £333 left over. So if we wanted to, we can then pay for Korea. So if we want to save up 4k in 1 year, that's actually £333. So we could then move the money that we are doing towards our debt, we can do that, and that means we'll be in Korea in 1.5 years' time. When our emergency fund is saved up, we can do all sorts of things, because if we want to save up 2k in a year, that's £160. So we can do that with it, or we can chuck our extra hobby money at computer, but we did say that we only want to buy a computer once Korea's done. So, you know, maybe in a year and a half's time, we've saved up Korea and then we've got an emergency fund. Then all of a sudden we've got what, 333 and 291. We can buy a banging computer. Once debt is gone, the world unlocks, and that's what I would do. I would play the aggressive game with debt because honestly, considering we're earning this much money, considering how much debt we've got, we can just make that problem go away so much easier just by chucking our spare money at it. And I think £600 on blind boxes is not a sustainable way to live your life. It might give you joy, and I get it, I have an expensive hobby too, but if I don't have the money, I don't do it, I make do. But if you have the capacity to earn extra money, do it, and then you can spend it on whatever you want. So that's the budget. That's what I would do. I'd love to know in the comments down below, what would you do in this situation? I mean, having a side hustle is a real big benefit. It really, really is. Like, I remember when I was working for the supermarket and I was doing this on the side, it was nice to have like extra money. I felt like I was really in control of stuff. But now that this is my full-time stuff, do I need another side hustle? Like, maybe I do. Hi guys, gals, non-binary pals. Hi guys, gals, non-binary pals. Thank you so much for getting through to the end of the video. You know I love it when you get through to the end of the video. Please give this video some love. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are going to comment, please use this emoji. Why am I yawning? Budget Bestie is super, super fun to do. This was a really, really interesting one. If there's anything that you particularly like to see in terms of a Budget Bestie, like a certain scenario, let me know in the comments down below. There has been a big influx in Budget Besties, and if you are still thinking about submitting yours, go ahead and do it because you absolutely can. Like, I'd love to have a look at it. Like, I'd love to get into the detail and see what I would do in your situation. But if there's a specific scenario that you'd like to see, please let me know. Like, a lot of the juicy ones are single people, but if you want to see like a family budget with multiple streams of income, let me know and I'll try and find one. Have you considered becoming a channel member or a patron? Patrons get exclusive content, sneak peeks, and significant discounts off my Etsy store. Channel members get early access to every single video. In fact, they've seen this video long before you have, bestie. If you like some of those perks and you like the sound of me, have a look at the links in the description. You will not regret it, bestie. An extra special thank you to our top tier patrons, also known as Sugar Daddies: Amanda Briggs, Angie, Kathy and Diana Hazel, Denise Nelson, Diana Hazel, Emma Playford, Janice Backman, Lakota, Megan Edwards, Nat, Susan, Tasha Bouvier, Tiffany Probasco, Tony Leland, and Tracy Dowdy. That is all we have for today until the next Budget Bestie, which should be in about a month's time or earlier if you convince me otherwise. I would like you to have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, and have a wonderful budget. Always remember, don't trust Ira. So for thumbnail, we have to show the budget, right? We have to be like, oh, like incredulous. Oh. That might work. All right, I'll see you next time, bestie.